This video is brought to you by EARMEN, makers of portable audio hardware. Click the link in the description box below for more information.
So this is my lounge room in my apartment, right in the middle of Berlin. And it measures 6 meters by 5 meters. It's not ideal. And obviously when you put loudspeakers in a room like this, you have to deal with reverberation. I also have to deal with room modes. Mathematically, this room has several modes. There's one at 35 Hertz. And it is a big problem. But generally, for most people listening to a hi-fi system in their lounge room, they really can't do much about the room's acoustics. But there's some basic things you can do, like on my floor here, I've tried to cover as much as possible with rugs, even though it's a nice wooden floor. But wooden floors are reflective surfaces, and that generates early reflections, much like the walls. And when you have early reflections, it masks some of the detail in the music because your ear is hearing the direct sound from the speaker plus slightly delayed the reflective sound. So the other thing we have to tackle is these early reflections as well as the reverberation and the room modes. Now, when you fill a room full of furniture, that can also help. Getting things on the wall can help. Books can help. I used to have CDs on the back wall behind Olaf here that actually they don't really absorb anything, they scatter sound because you don't want to over deaden the room. You don't want to kill all of the reverberation. But today we are going full ham on acoustic treatments because I've got Portugal's Vicoustic coming in to treat this entire room. So I'm going all in and I'm hoping it's not going to look too nerdy, too scientific, but the reason I am doing this is because I want to improve the sound of my room, because the room has the greatest impact of everything on what we hear from a loudspeaker system in a room. Now I realize I'm privileged in being able to do this because not everybody can, because they have family concerns and things like that. I don't, so I'm just going to turn this lounge room into some more of a fully treated listening space. I mean, that's the plan. So basically, it will allow me, hopefully, to do my job better. It will hopefully afford me greater insight into the sound of loudspeakers. We've got a few reviews of those coming up. So yeah, the guys from my Vicoustic will be here, I think, any minute now with a van full of panels all boxed up. So we should get going. So obviously in this room now, it's empty, there's no furniture in here, you can hear the reverb, you can hear the echo. It's just horrible. So what's going on behind me here is that the panels are being built inside frames and the frames are hung on the wall. And I've just learnt that the materials used for the frame and for the panels themselves, so the sort of stuffing for the frames, is all made from sustainable materials in Portugal. So I live in what's called a Neubau, which is a new building in German. And I live in this building because it's a new building. This was, I think, built in '97, so several years after the wall came down when they rebuilt this area, because this was a wasteland once the wall came down. I live here because it's got very, very solid walls and floors, so I can make a lot of noise with music and not disturb anybody. One of the big problems with Altbau, old buildings, is they have wafer-thin floors. So there's no chance of running a subwoofer in an Altbau, none at all. I remember when I first came here, I had an Airbnb with one of those B&W Zeppelin speakers in there, and even that would upset the neighbors below. So I have to live in a Neubau like this with concrete, very thick walls and concrete floors, and below me are offices, so I have nobody to disturb in the evenings. So this building is perfect for me and what I do with my job. So it's almost 2:30 p.m. It's kind of getting a little bit dark. Darkness isn't far away. The ceiling is almost finished, but not quite. But already we can hear a difference. There's just not as much sort of reverberation in the room. And that's just the ceiling. So the huge piece on the rear wall is actually many versions of this, all hung on 2 metal strips. Now it is placed there for diffusion. That means that when sound hits that big panel, it scatters the sound in multiple directions rather than just firing it straight back into the room in one direction. So it's called a diffuser. That's its job, to diffuse sound, not absorb sound, just to scatter it around the room. And of course, the absorption panels and the diffuser panels being installed today mainly tackle the uppermost frequencies in the frequency range. So sort of mid-range and above, or upper mid-range and above. So it's 5 p.m, it's dark outside. The side wall is almost finished. We have a range of panels here. We have full absorption at the far end. Then we have what's called like selective absorption, where some frequencies go through the slots and don't come back, and some just get reflected by the wooden front panel. Then we've got a diffuser like we have on the rear wall. And then we've got selective absorption again, and then full absorption here. Again, mainly high frequency treatments. Let's talk about this thing. This is not made by Vicoustic. This is what we call a bullshit fake panel, which is basically just a piece of foam sponge covered in a bit of plywood, made to look a little bit like a Vicoustic panel, but it's not, and it doesn't do a damn thing. And a lot of people use these just as visual trickery, really. So here we are, the last panel of the day. This is an absorber going into the sort of rear right-hand corner of my room. Let's make sure I don't fuck this up. There, marvelous, we are done. So it's almost 8 p.m. on Friday night. We have been doing this since 8 a.m. It's been a very, very long day, no breaks. And I guess it took me by surprise as to how long it just took to unload the van, get all the gear in the boxes up here. There were like 23 boxes, something like that. You can probably hear it. 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 This room is super echoey this morning. It's just horrible. It isn't now, so the reverb time has been brought way down mathematically in the uppermost frequencies. I've got this very attractive sort of kind of conversation piece diffuser on the rear wall here, a combination of absorbers and diffusion on this side wall and then absorption on the front wall. The two white panels that straddle the clock, they can come off so that I can still project my TV onto that wall. So I'm a projector fan, but I'm not really so fussed about the quality. I just like to have a big image. So yeah, it's been a very enlightening day, and I think I've learned a lot about the process. The key word here is process of the installation of all of these acoustic panels in order to treat a room like this to improve its sound. Although I must state that not everybody will do this. Only a very few people will do this kind of thing. But some people will. Another reason a lot of people won't do this is because of the price. Because all of these panels, plus the installation costs, 10,000 euros. And obviously you're probably not going to do that for a pair of KEF LS50 Meta. But if you have more expensive speakers or you're more emotionally or personally invested in your hi-fi, you might see that as value for money. That's for you to decide, not for me. These panels do not belong to me. The deal with Vicoustic is that I've got them on loan until such time that I move out, and then they're going to take them away again. They might install them in my new place, but God, I don't even know if I'm going to move at all. But the thing to remember here is that this room is still empty. So I've still got to put the sofa back, and then obviously all the hi-fi gear and the plants. Yeah, if you like this video, please hit the like button down below. If you like my attitude towards high-end audio, hi-fi gear, please subscribe to this channel. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching.